I did want to say that you can always tell the better man to, if you don't want to look in politics, right? You don't want to even research one thing, but you want to vote. You really want to help the country, okay? All you have to do, right, is look at the 1% polls, meaning the polls that poll only the top 1% earners in the country, the richest people, the 1%. You know, the poll is only about them, okay? And this is the poll for Trump, okay? 87.5% were against Trump. They hated him. Only 12.5% of the elites, the 1%, liked Trump and wanted Trump. That's all you have to do. Whoever the elites love overwhelmingly, you know what I mean, then you know who the bad guy is and the good guy is. Because literally 87.5% of the elites are garbage. But there is 12.5% of the elites that are actually good people, or just average elites. Isn't that funny how they line up exactly? But anyways, what else do I got here? Yeah, Trump is going to. They tricked us into, when you look at the books, everything after like World War I, all the books say that, all the economy books now, the Federal Reserve Bank stabilizes the economy. Without it, we're just all going to die. But all the books before that, literally, for thousands of years, every book that has ever been printed says that the Federal Reserve Bank is an evil debt-making machine, okay? And what's funny is you can read an economics book, right? And it will tell you how the Federal Reserve Bank stabilizes the economy. And then in other chapters, it will show you how the Federal Reserve Bank is a loan-making machine. It's a perpetual debt-making machine, all right? And I'll tell you, if it's a perpetual debt-making machine, how can also, who cares if it stabilizes the economy? And what's funny is, if the elites own the Federal Reserve Bank, right, because it's not government-owned, are the elites the type of people that will use this? Because it does stabilize the economy if you're not evil, okay? But if you're evil, you just use it to flood the market with a bunch of money, right? Put out a lot of loans, make everyone happy and cheer and clap, right? Then what happens though is they contract the money supply. First they, made the money supply big, right? Now they contract it. They call in all their loans, and those banks calls in their loans, and those banks call in theirs, and then there's a scare. Everyone's like, whoa, man, they're calling in these loans. Let's get our money out of the banks. And then, you got your recession or your depression, right? Yeah. What's Trump doing now, man? Oh, what's he doing? He's giving out loans, making everything grow. He's growing the economy to help you. He's not growing it up so everyone can get a whole bunch of loans and get fat, buy houses and cars, and then contract the money supply. I don't think Trump's going to contract the money supply. I think the very next president, okay, I don't know if maybe it's going to be J.D. Vance and he doesn't do it. I don't know. Hopefully it'll be Vivek, and then I know he won't. Yeah, they're going to like I said, flood the money supply, right? Get us all happy and fat and in debt, right? Contract the money supply, and then when everything is, because when you contract the money supply, everything has no value, right? Your house, your $100,000 house is only worth $100 now. I'm just making up numbers on that, but it's going to go down really low. Your $100,000 house might go down to $20,000 or something, Let's say $100. It goes down to $100. Then they come in and get here's $100. I'll give you $200 for that house. It's only worth $100, so I'm doing you a favor. And you're starving, so of course you say, okay, let me do that deal. And then right after that, they flood the market with a bunch of money, so that the money's, See that the volume of money in the society determines the value of the money. The more money you have, the less it's worth, and the less money you have, the more it's worth. You know, so they buy everything up, and then they just flood the market, and then all their stuff that $100 house that they bought goes back to $100,000 value, and then they're like, oh, I got my $100,000. Ah. They're going to contract, and then, right, when we're all starving, right, we're all whatever, that's when they're going to start their little war, their little World War II, okay? Because they're going to buy up everyone's property, right, like they always do. They do this every decade. How can they do it every decade for the last for like hundreds of years? They've been doing this, and like every decade, and since they, you know, when it's 1930, 100 years they've been doing this every decade. You didn't realize, you know, it's like a sine wave. Woo, woo. And everyone's like, I don't see it. I don't see it. Durr. How do you not freaking see it, you morons? Jesus Christ. So when they buy everything up, right, because this is going to be the biggest money transfer in the history of history, okay? And we're all on the ground, you know, starving. They're going to flood the market again with money, right? So their properties go up and back to the normal value, right? And then they're going to start their war. And then, see, wars, you print up a lot of money. Oh, they're going to bankrupt us big time. Yeah, so they're going to print up all this money. And as they're printing up, because everybody prospers during a war, believe it or not. Wars are great for the economy. Oh my God, your economy, everyone will be rich, okay? But, yeah. Then after the war, oh, they're going to change the monetary system. And they're going to put a chip in your arm. And it's going to have electronic money, no more regular money. And if you talk bad about them, you protest, they're going to flip a switch, turn off your chip. So you can't buy anything, rent anything, pay your rent, can't work. This is the Zeitgeist, the movie, as you can see up here. Like I said before many times in other videos, you can go to Tubi.com, T-U-B-I. You don't have to sign in or do anything. You just start watching movies.
My wife thinks I'm alright. I called her and said I was reading the bill and I was fine, and bang.
This is 9/11 right here, baby.
When hostilities commenced in Europe in 1939, it was realized that the American people had no intention of entering the war. But they believed that this country could be enticed into the war in very much the same way that it was enticed into the last one. They planned, first, to prepare the United States for foreign war under the guise of American defense.
This is Charles Lindbergh, if you don't know.
Second, to involve us in the war, step by step, without our realization. Third, to create a series of incidents which would force us into the actual conflict. These plans were, of course, to be covered and assisted by the full power of their propaganda. Our theaters soon became filled with plays portraying the glory of war. Newsreels lost all semblance of objectivity, and they have used the war to justify the restriction of congressional power and the assumption of dictatorial procedures on the part of the President and his appointees. A fear campaign was inaugurated. We cannot allow the natural passions and prejudices of other peoples to lead our country to destruction.
Notice how the similarities of 9/11. This says, behind the ostensible government sits enthroned an invisible government
owing no allegiance and no accountability, no responsibility to the people. That's Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th president. The real menace of our republic is the invisible government. They're talking about the Federal Reserve Bank, if you don't understand when they say invisible government. The real menace to our republic is the invisible government, the little coterie of powerful international bankers virtually runs the United States government for their own selfish purposes. That's the mayor of New York City, John Hyland. The real truth of the matter is that a financial element in the large centers has owned the government since the days of Andrew Jackson. That's also Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd president.
(1775).
Keep in mind, every book, every person, Ben Franklin, every famous guy that you know of has either written about it or said about it, that the Federal Reserve Bank, any central bank, is evil.
1775. The American Revolutionary War began as the American colonies sought to detach from England and its oppressive monarchy. Though many reasons are cited for the revolution, one in particular sticks out as a prime cause. That King George III of England outlawed the interest-free, independent currency the colonies were producing themselves, in turn forcing them to borrow money from the Central Bank of England, immediately creating economic hardship and
See, this is what, they say, no taxation without representation, and then they bring up a story about a bunch of dudes throwing some tea over the boats in the harbor. They went to the boats, took all the tea, threw it into the ocean, because they were getting taxed on the tea and all the stuff that was coming in, but they didn't have any representation. That's not really the story. That's the BS stuff that you learn in public high schools, okay? If you know it's BS, then you go look and see what the real reason is. I mean, don't get me wrong. That was a reason too. That tea and stuff was being taxed. Imports were being taxed on, and they didn't have any representation. This was the real tax. Because that was nothing. If you didn't want to pay the tax, just don't buy their tea or their coffee or whatever the hell they're selling. It was that simple. You know what I mean? This Federal Reserve, it was called the Stamp Act or something like that. They were saying you can't make your own money. You only use money that has our stamp on it. You know what I mean? And from our central bank. And everyone knew, because not one person in the world ever in the history of humanity has ever said anything other than central banks or Federal Reserve banks are evil. Okay, like if you take all the evil people like Hitler, Mussolini, and all them people, and you put them all together, yeah, a central bank is more evil than all of them combined. Okay, everyone knew it. Till 1950, then they changed all the books.
Despair. In the words of Peter Cooper, former vice president of the New York Board of Currency, after Franklin had explained to the British government as the real cause of prosperity, they immediately...
The real cause of prosperity was that they printed up their own money, so they didn't have to use this perpetual debt-making machine called the central bank, or we call it the Federal Reserve Bank today.
He passed laws forbidding the payment of taxes in that money.
They just said, "Oh, you can't pay any tax. You can't. How can you buy anything if it has taxes on it if you can only pay in their money?"
This produced such great inconvenience and misery to the people that it was the principal cause of the revolution. In 1783, America won its independence from England. However, its battle against the central bank concept and the corrupt, power-hungry mentality associated with it had just begun. So what is a central bank? A central bank is an institution that issues and regulates the currency of an entire nation. Based on historical precedent, the typical powers inherent in central banking practice include the control of interest rates and the expansion and contraction of the money supply itself. Now, the central bank does not simply issue money to the government, it loans it to them with